What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Tactical Advantage. So what we're going to do this evening is talk a little bit about a recent instructor certification program I partook in that I thought yielded greatly for me. So I definitely wanted to kind of put it out there for everyone to kind of hear about. So I guess to preface that, to start out, I don't really talk about it much on the channel, but I've been an active professional firearms instructor for about 20 years. Certified through multiple organizations, but really over the past couple years, I've tried significantly to improve my personal skill level and be able to provide more to the people I work with. So that's something that's really important from an instructor standpoint. You know, if they're not trying to progress their own knowledge and their own abilities, that's a clue that you might have an issue there. But really, to get right into it, the course I took was Active Self Protection's Instructor Certification Program. And it was really very different than anything I'd taken in the past. So again, I thought it made a lot of sense to try and make this video to put an AAR up for it because it's relatively new, but it's very different. So with that being said, I guess we can kind of jump right in. So first things first, I really want to clarify that I don't have any affiliation with Active Self-Protection other than my experience in this program. So, you know, we're definitely not trying to, you know, promote a product for them. These are my true thoughts and how I truly feel and what I got out of it. So with that, we'll kind of jump right in with who is this kind of for. So their instructor certification program is for the already active professional instructor. So it's certainly not an introductory level kind of course, much like you would seek out for like the NRA, USCCA, things like that to get some credentials under your belt so you can actually start feeling you can teach. I think it's more developmental opportunity for someone that's already a professional that really wants to broaden their abilities in regards to teaching or understanding adult education in the subject matter and the seriousness of the subject matter in which they teach. So with that in mind, there's a few prerequisites that you have to even be accepted into the program. So one, I believe you have to be certified through one of the organizations we've already mentioned. You have to be teaching actively for at least 1 year, have a minimum of 25 students taught, and there's some other prereqs that you have to do to actually get accepted into the program. You need to do, let me see, you have to do a 1,000-word essay explaining what your personal mission and goals are, submitted with your application. A video where you're actually talking about what you wrote about. Let me see, you have to do some shooting qualifications on video, because obviously, you know, they want to make sure you have, you know, a certain level of skill in the subject matter in which you want to teach. So just the selection process alone is relatively rigorous compared to what you would see in the normal market. You know, to go to an NRA class, and certainly nothing wrong with them, and I'm not knocking them, but, you know, you pay your money, you show up, you take your test, and you shoot a relatively easy course of fire, and here's your certificate. You know, go on into the world and teach. So is that a negative? Nah, not really, but it doesn't really foster high skill and high capability in the instructor world, especially in relation to firearms. So that's really why I kind of wanted to find a course like this, and I didn't really know that it would give me as much as it did, but that's really where I was. As I said before, I had been teaching for quite some time, And I was really looking for something to help me refine or push my boundaries of what I was capable of in regards to teaching. So it delivered that in spades, but it's very different how it goes about it. So again, I mean, just to recap this section, you already kind of need to know what you're doing. If you want to get more out of your abilities or be better, it's a really good opportunity to do that. So after moving past selection and you get accepted into the program, there's a pretty significant amount of work that has to be put in. So this really isn't a set it and forget it kind of program. You absolutely have to engage, and there's some work to be done. So let me see here, and it's a 6-month commitment, straight off the bat. It's a relatively expensive certification. It's not cheap, but there's value to be had there. But again, 6-month certification. It's probably about 120 to 150 hours of focused commitment to do the course load. There's multiple written assignments, multiple books that you'll have to read. And there's actually another little interesting quotient to it where would do weekly WebExes, where the participants in the program, or they're called cohorts, so small kind of program classes, segments of people. And we would get together and discuss the work, discuss best management practices, discuss what we were good at, what we weren't good at. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of commitment and a lot of hours put in. They're not just handing out certificates. If that's what you're looking for, this is not going to be the program for you. But if you're looking, again, to something you have to invest in, but that helps you grow, I honestly have never been a part of anything like it. So if I sound kind of bubbly and happy about it, I'm really proud I got through it. It was a lot of work, but it was really, really, really impactful on me. And not even just from a shooting perspective or a teaching perspective. The greater idea of how I thought about things was impacted by it. So it's really cool. A lot of work. I cannot stress that enough. If you're going in and you want to breeze by, you probably want to look elsewhere. If you're ready to kind of commit to something that means something, it's probably a good opportunity for you. So if you're familiar at all with social media, you're probably familiar with Active Self-Protection or John Correa and what he does from an evidence-based firearms analysis kind of point of view. He's relatively well known for what he does. But what a lot of people don't know is John has a pretty strong education background. So that's, I think, a big part of why this course developed like it did. So between, John Correa, Neil Widener, and Stephanie Widener, who's the CEO of Active Self-Protection, and Samuel Middlebrook, who's the Director of Instructor Certification, who you guys will get to hear from at the end of this video, they really built a program that's solidly cored in like ethics. I know that sounds weird with the subject matter that we're talking about, but it's something that's really kind of important. So there's a big piece of understanding your ethics, your core values in your business that you're going to learn and kind of find ways to develop to find out who you are. They're not pushing like the active self-protection way. There's no book with a curriculum that you're going to get at the end of this and say, hey, go teach our program, and just try and fly the active self-protection flag. That's not really what it's about. It really is about individual development. And I think that leads back to what we talked about earlier about already being a professional in this industry. Most of us start off with NRA or USCCA or Rangemaster or whatever certifying body you choose and begin teaching classes. And it tends to pigeonhole people as they become skilled in teaching because you feel the need to teach someone else's curriculum. And I thought this was really an unlocking opportunity where it empowers you to kind of understand your value and your ability to teach. You know, and if again, you might hear me repeatedly say this, if you know what you're doing, or you're getting better at understanding what you're doing, it really will help you build the confidence and the ability to move forward, and really own what you do. So with that, I guess I can get into kind of the community aspect. So another big part of what I experienced, especially with the teammates in my cohort, was there was a pretty significant rally about community. And that was really kind of through the WebEx training. We had an in-person event in Arizona, and we really got to know each other in such a way that we were able to disarm and really talk about the meat and potatoes of being an instructor, either relatively new or very experienced and high level in this industry. And it got to the point where we could actually disarm and talk about the things that we were insecure about, talk about the things that we wish we were better at. And that, again, was something that was completely unique in my experience taking any kind of certification course. So, you know, I've been to a bunch of certification courses, and you really have kind of two ways it goes. One, you're just going in to check the box, right? Two, there's a bunch of alpha personalities, and no one wants to talk about how they really feel about things or what they really think, or having a bad day, or, you know, posting up a bad demo in front of students. That's not something that really gets talked about a lot in our industry, and it was refreshing to be able to do that. So I think another aspect of how this works, and well, no, I shouldn't say, a testament really to how they built the program, is it fosters that kind of environment. So, you know, I'll give a quick shout out to some of the people in my cohort. Let me see, Force Projection LLC, which is ran by a gentleman named Chris, who's just awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let me see, the Practical Guardian, which is another Chris. Great guy, great instructor. He's going to be a force. Trigger Time Range, Karen. Incredibly articulate and amazing female instructor. Amazing. We've got, let me see, Precision Defense Solutions, Brandon. He's a great guy, teaching martial arts, firearms, the full gamut. I believe he's in Ohio, another rock and roll guy. Then we've got the Complete Combatant, Shelly Hill. If you're in the firearms community and you haven't really heard of the Complete Combatant, you probably need to go look around a little bit, but high speed stuff there, rock and roll people, really, really, really good. And then you've got Krista Forrester, who's another one, and I think she's in CCFI, doing like concealed carry stuff and firearms education. So these are just a few of the people in my cohort, but really, I mean, high level stuff. And I'm not saying you have to be like a nationally recognized instructor to get into this. That's certainly not what it's about. But it'll give you an idea. Once you join a cohort, you could have a guy that just started a year ago, and you could have somebody that's been doing this for 20 years on the national circuit that's highly respected in the community. So that offers you opportunity to not only learn from other people's experience, but to kind of identify that we all kind of feel the same way. We all have similar thoughts, insecurities, issues, you know, things like that. So you go from how we feel personally to business strategy, value, how do you build your course curriculums? What do you teach? Is that where you need to be? Is that where you want to be? It's nuts how in depth and how good it is. The people I've mentioned and the people in my cohort are really going to be lifelong business advocates and mentors to me. You can't buy that. You can't go to another instructor certification and get that. You can't get that kind of support, you know, from your TCs and NRA. You know, it's just not like that, because it's built specifically to have a care quotient to it that's pretty impressive. So, you know, that's the recurrent theme that you'll hear, you know, through the video, or you have heard, is it's different. It's really different. All right, well, I'll just summate real quick. You've already kind of heard most of this. So if you're already a professional and you really want to up your game, you're willing to put in a lot of work. You're willing to understand that this is not a devalued, cheap certification. It's expensive. It requires an investment, but you really want to get better. You want it to mean something. I think if those things ring true to you, this is an opportunity you should run toward, not walk toward. I can't say enough about it. You know, of all the plaques I have hanging up on the wall, all the pieces of paper I got in a box, the one that kind of means the most to me in all these years is right here. So John, Steph, Neil, Sam, my cohort mates, it was an incredible experience. And it's something I think sorely needed in our industry. So, you know, there's a million ways I could have made this video and a million ways to discuss it that I don't think would have really touched on how impactful it was and how good really I thought it was, and what value it kind of brought to me. Certainly more value than I paid and I put in work. So if you're looking for something, check them out. You know, Sam, I know, will absolutely talk to somebody. John will absolutely talk to somebody. Neil will absolutely talk to somebody to figure out if this is the right opportunity for you. And if you're just looking for something that's more in depth, better than the run-of-the-mill stuff, helps you develop as a teacher or a leader of students or people wanting to learn, it's absolutely worth a look. So past that, guys, stick around. There's a short video right after this with Sam, so you can kind of get a feeling of who's really kind of leading that charge. And past that, I hope to see more of you, you know, in the alumni of this, because I would love to discuss your experience. And if not, if you're just a student, you know, I would pretty highly say if you find somebody with this certification behind them, they are going to know how to help you. So that might be something you want to look into. So past that, I appreciate it. See you guys next time. All right, guys, well, you've already got my take on what the Active Self Protection Instructor Program really kind of yielded me. But we've got a pretty good opportunity here to talk to Samuel Middlebrook, who's the Director of Instructor Certification for Active Self Protection, and really one of my great mentors of my career. So I figured instead of me explaining what the program's all about, which you've already heard, I'd give him an opportunity to kind of talk through it. So I guess the best way to kind of start this, Sam, is kind of what's your take on the program, and what do you think about it, or what are you trying to do with it?
Well, at this point, we have run 2 full cohorts. Each cohort is a 6-month learning journey for people who are already professional firearm instructors. And our job is not to try to help them shoot better. Our job is to try to help make them understand that they are capable of teaching better than they thought. And so this all began with a question where my good friend John Correa asked the question, is it possible for us to create an instructor certification program that isn't about shooting, but is about learning, how adults learn, how adults receive information in the most optimal manner, and how can we help firearm instructors learn from the education world, which John has a big background in.
Sure.
How can we help firearm instructors learn from each other? And how can we help firearm instructors learn from what we've learned in active self-protection and help channel that learning toward bettering these individuals that come to us? And so the way I put it to people and the way I'd put it to anyone watching this is that our goal is to help instructors help their students to fall in love with learning. And this happens to be about defensive arts and self-defense and firearms and things like that. But I have found in my own teaching and through this experience of leading this program that when people fall in love with learning, they actually become not just better at teaching, but they become better at whatever it is they are pursuing in life. If I approach my relationships with my wife, with my kids, as someone who's in love with learning, then I'm going to learn a whole lot about my kids and a whole lot about my wife or my neighbor or my boss or whomever it might be. And so one of the things that I've been stressing, especially in the second cohort that you were a part of, is that the very best instructors that I have had in my life, in all the aspects that I've had training in, the best instructors that I've had in my life are the ones that are students of their students first.
Beautiful quote.
And if I am a student of the people that come into my class, the same way I was a relentless student of you when you started this program and continue through the program, the more I can learn about my student and the more I can watch them as they are learning, the more I'm going to understand not only how they learn, but how is it that I can rephrase something, repackage something, or even restructure something in a way that can help a student learn better. Because in the end, it's not about me and the program that I've built. It's about the students that come to it and what they need in that particular class or experience that we're having. And so this program is all about helping people who already teach learn how to teach better.
And I agree, like everything you're saying from a conversational standpoint, it is that, right? So my experience in the program was very amicable to that, where it becomes not about self, it becomes about who your audience is or who you're working with. And that you can't learn that from the bottom up. You have to learn that, or it has to be engaged in from the top down. And you guys do that really, really well. So there's intrinsic value there that I don't know that I've experienced.
Well, a lot of that comes from the culture that John Correa and Stephanie Widener and Neil Widener have built into the active self-protection culture, which is to be heartfelt and to be value added. The truth is this, and you know this as well as anybody else, you can go 1,000 places and learn how to shoot. There are a few places that we have found that are teaching people to be heartfelt and value added. Heartfelt simply means that you are leading with your heart, not just your skill, not just your intellect, but your heart. You're bringing yourself to it. And there's a lot that goes into that. There's personal integrity, there's honesty, and there's being factual, so being evidence-based in what you teach.
Sure.
And so we're being heartfelt in that way, but being value added to your students. How can I make it so that when students come to a course or come through this program, they are receiving everything I've got? And I am putting more into this than I'm taking away. That would be heartfelt and value added. And I think some of that is teachable, but I think it's mostly done by example, which is one of the important parts of the length of this program, is that you are invited as an instructor in this program, not just to go through a course where you learn stuff, but you are invited into kind of the inner circle and culture of what has been built with active self-protection.
Sure.
And you're not just taught about being value added and heartfelt, but you're shown what it looks like to be heartfelt and be value added.
Right. So I think for me, the best way to quantify that is my experience with the cohort I was in. The other people that were in it have become friends, but more than that, I think that the people in my cohort will be lifelong advocates and people that I can trust.
Very true.
You know, from a professional level and a personal level.
Very true.
Where do you find that? You don't, you know, so it's truly unique in that regard. So I definitely think it's more than, you know, learning. Let's go stand in front of a class and teach a segment, or let's go stand in front of a class and shoot to prove something. I think it's very different than that.
Right.
And unique, you know, and you know this. I've
Sure.
made this really clear how I feel about that. But if you're a professional looking to do something different that will make you better at your job, I don't know that there's a better way to do it. You know, that's as in-depth and transformative, really. So I guess in passing, any kind of final things you want to tell anyone out there that might watch this?
Let's be clear about this. The ASP instructor program, I believe, we had people from cohort 1 saying this is the most challenging, demanding instructor certification course in the United States. Let's be real. We're not sitting around singing Kumbaya by the fire the whole time.
no.
There is a lot of work to be done, and it is provable work that you have evidence of.
Absolutely.
And it is a phenomenal journey that you get to go on. If you want to find out more, you can go to aspinstructors.com. You can also email me directly. I'm Samuel at activeselfprotection.com, and would love to help you find out more about how you can be a part of this journey that we're building.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.